Hello, people. This is Steven Helhammer from the Helhammer Hangout. You are watching Channa Channa Channa, and I can't wait to share my story with you. Thanks for watching.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of my podcast. We have a very special guest today joining all the way from Perth, Australia. We have Steven Helhammer of Helhammer Hangout. Hi Steven.
Hey, my friend, how are you going?
I'm good. How about you?
Yeah, I can't complain. It's been a bit of a hectic day here. Sundays here are a little bit busy, with the kids and everything. So, but again, I can't complain, man.
Right. So how is Perth these days? So is the pandemic thing over now over there or what?
Yeah, I don't know if you can say it's over. I don't think it ever really started, to be honest.
Right.
It's one of those things. I don't know how many times I've had a chat to other podcast guests about this, but we haven't really had any COVID here since May last year. May or June, I think it was. So look, there isn't really anything at all. We got live music. There's no face masks. There's no restrictions whatsoever. So it is probably one of the benefits of being the most isolated city in the world.
Right.
Yeah. So very fortunate.
Right. So Stephen, you're not originally from Perth, right? You are from Denmark, or?
That's right. Yeah. I am. I'm an import to this country.
Right. So when did you move to Australia?
Depends on you if you want the short or the long version. I originally flew into Perth in 2009 on a one-way ticket. I just wanted to try and do something crazy. I've always loved Australia, but yeah, flew in 2009 in September, and I met my now wife 4 months later in January. So that's how I ended up here. That's a very, very, very short story.
Right.
I met a local girl, fell in love, got married, got 3 kids. So that's how I ended up here.
Right. So it's sort of similar because I'm actually from Sri Lanka originally. So I came here. Yeah, I came here for like 1 month assignment, and then I'm here now. It's 15 years.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
So how did you go to? Because you're in Manila, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So how did you end up in Manila? Like what? So you said you went there for an assignment?
Yeah, because I work in telecom. So I work in telecom, telco stuff. So I was assigned to a project here for like 1 month assignment. Then it became 3 months. Then it became 6 months. Then eventually I met my wife also, now wife. Then I decided to stay here. So
Fantastic. Well, you hear those stories so often, where people go somewhere and find, oh, this is nice. I kind of, resonate with this place.
right.
And then, sometimes stuff works out and you never go back. That's great to hear, man. Great to hear.
Yeah. So Stefan, can you tell me a little bit about your childhood, especially in Denmark, and the music scene back then, like, how you got into the music?
Absolutely. That's again really, really fun story as well, because I never really, like, growing up, I never really played any instruments or anything. I'm from a very musical background. Like, again, we always sang a lot of songs, and always, like, my dad played guitar and stuff like that, so we always, like, sang a lot growing up. But but when I was younger, I wanted to be a director or an actor or something. I wanted to go to Hollywood, be a movie star.
Right.
And then when I was 13, I got thrown into. I had to be joining this music class at school, like, just for 1 day. And because I was tall and they needed a drummer, they said if I could play the drums, and I loved that. And a month later, I bought a drum kit, and since then, I loved playing music. But sort of growing up with the music, I think one of the first songs I remember was actually an Australian artist, John Farnham, "You're the Voice." I remember, running around as a kid and singing along to that song every time it came on the radio. So that was one of my sort of fun musical childhood memories.
Yeah. So in Denmark, I actually have one of these bands that I really like. I don't know if you heard about them, Artillery.
Yeah, man. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I know them.
You know, I met them. They came here like just before the pandemic last year. And
Oh, fantastic.
yeah, I was telling them that they're actually my second favorite Danish band. And then they were asking who is the first favorite band. I said Michael Learns to Rock.
Ah! Oh, you hear that? So like Michael Learns to Rock were, I'm sure they still are quite famous, but I remember like 10 years ago or 15 years ago, they were like the biggest band in the world in Southeast Asia.
Right.
Because I remember before I ended up in Australia, I traveled a lot around Southeast Asia. You know, I went to Indonesia, Thailand, like especially Thailand. Man, everybody knew them there, man. But you know, like Malaysia and stuff. Like every time you travel around there and you say you're from Denmark, everybody said, Michael Learns to Rock. Michael Learns to Rock. I was like, damn. And I looked into it and like, yeah, apparently like they had Bryan Adams and Wet 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 support them when they were playing. Like so some of the tours they were playing, it was like, that's insane because they aren't that famous back home.
Right.
But they just hit a niche market in Southeast Asia, man. I actually got a little fun story for you if you're a Michael Learns to Rock fan. My old band Stormed, which if you want we can have a chat about them as well. Our manager was the manager for Michael Learns to Rock.
Wow.
So yeah, so he has told us a lot of crazy stories about, you know, when they were touring and how they got into the Asian market to begin with, sort of by accident. But yeah, that's so cool that that's your favorite band and Artillery is number 2. That's very, very East and West, like, pretty much.
The guys just fell off they were like literally fell down there, like, you know, when they hear that one.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So what's your favorite song or a couple of favorite songs by Michael Learns to Rock?
It was actually just a joke, but I do go and watch when they come to town. I think I watched them already 3 times, I think, in Manila.
Nice. When I actually just thought of sort of that then here as well. Last time we went to Denmark was in 2018, I think. And when we were checking into our flights to depart from Denmark to go back to Perth, you know, like me and my wife and at that time we had 2 kids. I've got 3 now, but when our 2 kids, I remember we were standing in line just to check in at the counter. And I looked down, like, just, I don't know why, just by accident. I looked out of the corner of my eye and I saw someone that was checking in like musical equipment down at the business and first class lane. And it looked like, I've seen that face before. And I looked close and it was Michael Learns to Rock. And I said, wow. I said to my wife, I said, I need to take a photo of this because otherwise no one's going to believe me. So I went over and like I took a couple of photos of them. Yeah, absolutely. Came in, they all checked in. It turns out they didn't fly business class, but because they sat a couple of rows ahead of us. Yeah. But yeah, so and that's like I said, that's only a couple of years ago. So I'm guessing, and we were flying into Singapore back then. So I'm guessing they were probably connecting to go somewhere around Southeast Asia on a tour.
Yeah, for sure. So Steven, when did you like really get into drumming?
So I was, I think I was about 13 at the time. So again, you know, I started late bloomer, if you like. But yeah, and as I said before, it was like purely by accident, man. Like I had no intentions of being a drummer, but it was just happened to be, you know, I think of the moment, like, and I came in, I didn't want to, like, I was so annoyed I had to be in the music class that day. You know, I wanted to be in the cooking class and eat cookies all day and stuff like that. But yeah, so I think I was about 13. I think I was in 8th or 9th grade back home. The school system is a little bit different to what is in Australia, but yeah, so that's it. But I picked it up very quickly because usually when I find something I'm really interested in, I usually go like full steam ahead. Like I want to learn everything like right now. So I'm very impatient. So I just, like I said, I bought a drum kit about a month later, and I've started inquiring for bands, you know, band members, like within a month or two. Like I just wanted to play. And again, like the best way of getting better is by doing it with someone else. Like, so you have someone to learn from and learn with. So So yeah, so I 13 or 14 around there, and again started my first band straight after, and then everything just went really, really fast from there.
Right. I mean, I see that from you, like what you said, that you put so like 100% into it. That because I first discovered Hellhammer Hangout through like some sort of a recommendation in YouTube, and then
Oh yeah, yep.
after some time you had these hybrid theories guys, right? The Linkin Park tribute band from Perth.
Yes.
So, and then I see your progress, like you had all these so many episodes, and then you're doing your own studio and all these things. So you're like deep into it, right?
Exactly. It's actually a really good example of what I said before about having that mentality where you just go all in. Because that's exactly right. I've sort of used the whole COVID break, the COVID lockdown as a segue to get out of the previous industry I was in.
Right.
So doing podcasts, having conversations with people, especially in the music industry, was something I just needed to reconnect to. And now, yeah, it's just become something I just I'm just building stuff like on the side with, like, so I'm doing my podcasting, and I'm trying to do some other avenues, everything online. So again, I'm starting a record label to release my own album that I'm currently recording as well. I'm doing obviously a YouTube channel as well, where I do something other than just podcasting as well. I am playing around with an online merch store that are currently being built at the moment. I've also recently started trading cryptocurrency. That's again stuff that's 100% online as well. So everything that you can do, online in order to try and try and monetize what you're doing is what I'm really interested in. And I think a lot of bands are missing out a little bit on that, or maybe not paying as much attention to it as it probably could.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, last year, especially when this pandemic hit, the bands and the live music, which that is what was affected, right? So completely affected. Most of them, even here now, we didn't have a show until now. So it's like,
That's
more than a
right.
year already. So some of the artists, like sometimes they just start doing other jobs because they don't have a way to earn anymore. And the online gigs and stuff, live streams doesn't seem to be working here, especially Philippines. People doesn't seem to be, watching them that much.
Yeah.
So it's a area that really need to be have a focus, right? For the
But
band.
it's also, but it's, I think if you treat it the right way, I think it's a really healthy exercise for people, because for a lot of bands, I don't think a lot of bands realize that there's other ways of making money than playing gigs, and playing gigs is extremely time consuming. Like, like you have, like, it's pretty much like you have to get there like early afternoon to try and set up and do sound check, and then, you got to pay for parking. You got to most likely got to go out and buy your own dinner and buy your own beers as well. Then you got to wait till the end of the gigs. Then you pack everything down. Then you go home and stuff. So there's a lot of time involved. And now where you can't play, some people, choose to sit at home and be sad and miserable about it. And I always say, people go home and they start watching Netflix instead. But if you go home and you find ways to say, okay, cool, I obviously can't play. So instead of me sitting and having a sad about that, I got to find something else where I can promote my music. Where's the best way to do it? Is online. At the moment, like the whole world is sitting at home. Most of the world is sitting at home, or they're spending a lot more time at home than they would otherwise, depending on what level of restrictions there is in different areas in different countries. So use that time constructively, like use that time to learn and use the time to adapt and increase your online presence. Because I mean, this is a very unprecedented time that we're going through. But I think a lot of bands, if you approach this the right way, you can come out a lot bigger on the other end because you have learned new skills. So most businesses, if you grow in a contracted market, you're gonna you're going to grow, 3, 4, 5 times as much by the time the market comes up, because you grow when everything is small. So when everything goes up, you grow with it. And I think a lot of people, a lot of, not just bands, but businesses or people in general, need to look at this as an opportunity. And that's exactly the same as what I'm trying to do here as well.
Right. So this podcast that I'm doing also, I started it as a result of COVID, because I couldn't go to gigs anymore. So I thought
Fantastic.
I'll just talk to friends. Maybe I'll just talk to my friends about the gigs and music.
Yep.
And then slowly, artists were getting involved. They wanted to be part of it. And then even like I did now, I think 120 episodes so far. So it's like a lot.
Yeah, that's awesome,
So
man.
yeah, so Steven, how is the Hellhammer podcast hangout idea came to you, and how did all this happen?
Well, pretty much the same as you, man. Again, a couple of weeks, I think 2 weeks into the lockdown, I was like, I needed something else to do. I was kind of going crazy, getting cabin fever, just sitting inside, and because I couldn't do my previous work from home in the same way, because again, I was out, sitting face to face talking to people about house designing and stuff like that. So so I was the same. I needed to reconnect with friends, and I wanted to talk to old friends about music. So I called up a couple of, and again, it was a good way for me to reconnect to old friends I haven't spoken to for a long time as well. So I did that, and same as you, they somebody started saying, oh, you should talk to these guys, you should talk to the ones over here, and then you did that, and then they would say, oh, you should also talk to these guys, and all of a sudden, like the calendar just started to fill out, and I was doing 3 or 4 episodes a week, and then by the time restrictions came out, I could then start to actually go out and see the bands live, all the bands that I've only spoken to through a webcam. Right. I could then go out and see them perform, and shake their hands and give them a hug and stuff like that. So so that was really cool. And then as we spoke about before, now I've sort of taken the next step. I've actually gone out and I've taken the leap of faith here. Say I'm gonna make it work by doing something online and build a studio. The studio is now officially open. That will be announced on my social media tomorrow, so don't know when this is going live, but anyway, mid-April 2021 is where we are officially going to be ready to start taking people in physically at the studio. But I have pre-recorded 9 podcasts that will start premiering as of next week as well. So I've been talking to people from overseas. I've got I've actually have a couple of bands from the Philippines I've had on, a band called Mayonnaise and a band called Fast Pitch. Right. So I had a chat to them. Band from Denmark. I've had a band from. I've had a producer from Italy. The Swedish guy, the Swedish producer I'm working with, the guitarist. I've had him on as well, Tommy. So I've got a lot of really, really cool guests already recorded and ready to air. Right. So that'll sort of be the launch pad stepping into the new format.
Right. So this I just want to ask. This the nickname, your name, Steven Helhammer.
Yeah.
How did you pick up Hellhammer?
That's it's a good question. And I've answered this many times, because people think it's like a metal band or something like that. But it's actually deliberately spelled with only one L, because it is an abbreviation of my last name, which is Helbo, so Helbo. And my wife's last name, which is Hanham. So she's got the HAM and I got the HEL. So we started many years ago. We started calling ourselves for the Hellhammer, for the Hellhammers. So the two of us combined would be the Hellhammers.
Right.
So it was just like, that's actually a really cool name. And so I was like, look, I'm just going to use that. And then it's funny because it's only spelled with one L. So it's the same as, like, I can see you got a Megadeth poster in the background. That's a terrible spelling as well. And you got you got Def Leppard, you got Limp Bizkit, and all those bands that are deliberately spelling the names incorrectly. You know what I mean? So I thought, look, that's actually a really cool way of spelling Hellhammer. And then Steven is just because it's like the English version of my name. And no one really knows how to pronounce Stefan or Stefan or Stefan, like so many ways of saying it. So just like, look, guys, just call me Steven, man. Like that's the English equivalent. So that makes it easier for everybody. There's no fuck ups and everything. So that's how Steven Helhammer came about. So it's an abbreviation of me and my wife's last names.
Right. It's just that happens that there is a band called Hellhammer, right?
I know. I know. And yeah, but I've got absolutely nothing to do with their music. That's very, I think that's like super fast death metal or something. Good band, by the way. A sensational drummer.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Steven, can you tell me a little bit about your music? Because I see from your website, I listened to the Incision and the Spin album that you have in Spotify.
Oh yeah. I actually deliberately took them out here just so we can have a look at them. I've got some hard copies here, man. But yeah. So did you want to talk about any of the bands in particular?
Yeah. Tell me the journey, like, when this happened, this Incision project, and you have another project called Stomp, right?
Yeah, I do. Incision was my very, very first band ever, or first real band, if you like, serious band. So we started back in 1995. It's so crazy to say that, we're in the 2000s. I'm getting very old, man. But so we started when I was about 18. We started gigging very quickly after. We started recording that album after, I think, just over a year. So everything went really, really fast. This album, just to put that in perspective, is from '97. So about 2 years after we started. And then so that was like my first real band. But back then, again, same as like I said, most bands in general, like we didn't really know what we were doing. We were just playing and just happy to go out and accept everything and any gigs that was out there. And this was also before social media. So again, all promotion was through, you had to call people up and actually put a CD or tape in an envelope and put stamp on it and find out who to send it to. It was very, very different to these days. But but Incision was like a very, very dear project to me. The whole album I recorded and mixed and engineered the album as well. I was working as an intern in a studio back then. So that again also holds a special place in my heart. It's actually the only album I've ever done since, because very quickly thereafter I moved on and didn't do any studio work after that. But I've actually just on a side story to that, I actually had them on the podcast. That's one of the episodes that I've recorded. So I actually have an interview with the singer and the bass player that's coming out in a couple of weeks, which was so cool to reminisce over old times and sort of see what people are up to and stuff. So that super cool. I said, like, I haven't spoken to the bass player for probably at least 10 years. And the singer now lives in Melbourne with his family. So he's married to an Australian girl, and they got two kids, and he's been in Melbourne for, I think, at least 10 years as well.
Right.
So yes, again, super cool, man. Super cool journey.
Right. So Steven, talking to all these different bands through the podcast, and what sort of insights do you get from all these discussions happening?
Oh man, I don't even know where to start. Because everybody has a different, like a slightly different story, but I think probably the main thing I took out of it is the fact that no one, very, very few really knows what they're doing, except they go out and play gigs. You know what I mean? Or they want to record some songs and put them on Spotify and play some gigs. And some want to become, famous. But I think that's very, very common in musicians in general. So that was sort of the main, like the missing link that I took away from most of the conversations, is the fact is that so many people have ambitions, but very few knows how to act on them. And I personally, I think, and this is something I've also uttered quite openly as well when I've been talking to people. I think it's because there is this stigma about being a musician, that or you should go and get a real job. Like you should, like, what do you do for a living then? Like surely you can't play music for a living, make money being a guitarist or a singer in a band. And that's kind of became the whole reason why I am trying to do what I am doing at the moment. Is the fact is I want to break that code. I want to make it possible for people to make money and try and give music like their full priority, because I believe it's not as hard as people think it is, because it is a stigma. It is something that people, it's a limiting belief that you have to go out and do something else. And I think it's because so many people think that it's all about getting gigs, and at the moment when there's no gigs, it's even harder. But it's really not. If you look at some of the big musicians or big bands in the world, or some of the very big sports stars, athletes in the world, the vast majority of their fortune or their income is not from music. It's from sponsorships, and it's from brand deals, and it's from everything else that they're doing on the side. So if you as a band only focus on playing gigs live, you're missing out on so many other opportunities, especially if it is something you want to do full time. So one of the first things that I tell people is, well, to begin with, like you need to treat yourself as a business.
Right.
And you need to learn about like business building and entrepreneurship to begin with, because whether you like it or not, if you don't make any money, or if you haven't got an entrepreneurial mindset, it's gonna rely on luck. And there's not much luck in this day and age where everything is so easy to accessible online. So if you start treating yourself as a business, or as a brand at least, you open yourself up to so many more opportunities. But same as a lot of other things, you got to be consistent. You got to have a game plan. You got to rally up with other people that have the same mindset. You got to believe in yourself, and you got to show up. Like you got to put the work in. And I think there's so many bands out there, including quite a few of the ones I've spoken to in the podcast, that have that potential, if only they would tweak that belief a little bit. So say, look, instead of me focusing on it, put it this way, if you have a day job and when people ask you what you're doing and you're saying, I'm an electrician, or I'm a carpenter or whatever, and then that's what you think you are. But if you start to say to people, I say, look, I'm a singer in this sick rock band, and we play all this stuff, and we've got an album coming out, we've got a website, and we're gonna be huge, man. We're gonna go on a world tour one day and stuff like that. If you start saying that to people, you're gonna hear yourself say it. You're gonna reflect to that. And then when people come up with the whole question saying, oh yeah, but so what do you do for work? Then you could say, oh, look, I work as an electrician. I make some money there. So that's how I pay my bills. But man, I'm a rock star, man. And one day I'm gonna fuck that job off, and I'm gonna tour the world. I'm gonna do X, Y, and Z. And if you start treating yourself like that, you can reflect that, and you're gonna start putting that up on your Instagram or your YouTube channel, or you start your own podcast, or whatever you do. Then you open up all these doors to embrace people and bring people into your life. Like I would never have met you if I hadn't started the podcast. I would never have met so many of these people if I hadn't started a podcast. Like I've spoken to, for instance, I had the band from the Philippines, Fast Pitch, which seems like they're quite big in Manila or the Philippines. I spoke to them for 2.5 hours the other day, and it was like one of the best conversations I've had. And again, same thing. Like I would never have heard of these guys if it wasn't because of me. Again, like I don't even know how many links I have to go back. But but the fact is, you open yourself up, and that opens up another door and another door and another door. And before you know it, like your network just like exponentially increases. But if you're stuck in the mentality of saying that you are, like you're a nurse, or you're a taxi driver, or whatever it is you're doing to get by in your daily, to pay the bills, then it's going to be very difficult to seeing yourself as that. So
Right.
I'm now, when people ask me what I'm doing now, I'm saying, look, I'm an entrepreneur in the music industry. I've got a podcast, I've got a YouTube channel, I'm recording an album. So I'm a drummer, you know, I'm so many things. I'm also a proud father, proud husband. So if you start saying all these things, like, you start to resonate with them. And I think
Right.
that's more important than anything else. You can have the best songs in the world, or you can have the worst songs in the world. It doesn't matter. If you don't have that mindset, it's everything else falls apart.
Right. I
That's a
mean,
long rant.
yes, yes. I mean, I believe that, right? Because what you manifest, like what you put out, that's what will come back to you, right? So you have to always.
Absolutely. 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 If you don't believe in it, how why should others? Why should others believe in it?
Right. Right. So,
And be
Stephen,
proud.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you, I remember we were trying to set up this conversation earlier, and then I think that's the time the concerts were coming back in Perth, and you had you actually did some coverage of like big festivals, right?
Yeah, so we had a festival called Perth Rocks Festival. We actually, like I said, live gigs have been on for a long time in Perth, and also without any restrictions at all.
Right.
But Perth Rocks was sort of like one of the biggest festivals here, because it was like all the top of the local rock bands had this day where I think they had like 20 bands literally playing back to back on two stages. So there was constantly a band playing. And yeah, so I got offered to be one of the official media sponsors for the event. And that just meant, you know, I would go down and obviously like hang out and have a chat to the bands and stuff. And that was like, again, another really good example of how many insanely good bands there is in Perth, and I'm sure there would be all around the world. But yeah, for me, it was just such an eye opener to see how many good bands there is. I've spoken to a few of them on the podcast already. And a lot of the bands that was playing on that day were bands that I've heard of, but I've never seen. But I tell you, man, like I couldn't point a finger at any bands there and saying, yeah, they probably didn't deserve a spot there or something. Like they were all 5 out of 5 stars, man. They were so good. And so many different genres as well. Everything from power metal to like doom and sludge and normal pop rock and stuff, like, well, probably not pop rock, but like yeah, just so many different genres, man. It was really, really cool. Really cool.
Right. So I had Soran from that Hybrid Theories band. So I heard that like in Perth, there's a lot of this tribute thing happening. Tribute bands.
Yeah, there is. And it's a good thing, I reckon, because again, it gives you an opportunity to treat it as a business, because that's really why you're doing a cover band. You know, like you can do a cover band or a tribute band because you really, really like that band that you're covering. But for most people, they also do it because, you know, it's a good way to go out and make some money. Like you go out and you get to play your favorite band's favorite songs. And usually you get paid a bit more or a lot more than if you're just a original band. Hybrid Theories, though, are without comparison, a league of their own. Like, you know, they have like, I'm sure Soren would have spoken about it, like their production and all the screens and lights and stuff.
Right.
Yeah, like they're next level. They run a very, very professional business there. So they are definitely sort of above most of the other bands for sure.
Right. So with your this new mission, and I know that you sort of self-knighted yourself as the ambassador of rock. So
Yep.
so what's going to happen, Steven? What's happening or what's going to happen?
Yeah, look, again, I'm sure even everything I'm gonna say now is gonna be probably different in a couple of months' time. But because basically, like I usually just act as soon as I get an idea, I just try and run with it. But my long-term vision as the ambassador of rock is actually not for me to be ambassador of rock. It's to create a community of ambassadors. So ambassadors of rock. It is simply to enable collaborations between bands, like original bands across the world, for them for bands to think more independently, think more out of the box. Everything I said before about mindset, about believing in yourself. Right. And it's to have a community where everybody can share tools, everybody can share ideas, and everybody can help each other with their like become an ambassador for said band or said band's journey. So that again means like you can be a fan, you can be a friend, you can be a part of a band, but you can go in and be a part of this community, and ultimately also become a part of my platform, where I can help promote people in that group, whether that's on the podcast, whether that's me sharing materials that they're doing, whether that's us actually doing some coaching, like some mindset training in how to try and think a bit bigger. Like try and like, if you're here, how do you think on tiers above? So if there's bands that you've either had on the podcast, or if there's bands that you know of that's a part of the group or part of the network that knows how to get up there. It could even be the fact that there might be bands that wanted to come and play in Manila, that wanted to come and play in the Philippines. Okay, well look, I've spoken to bands in the Philippines. Let's try and reach out to them and see if they can create a contact, so you can go over there and play. Maybe you can come over and support them. Maybe they can come to Australia and they can support you. You know what I mean? So you have that opportunity to constantly, proactively help the bands. So again, become an ambassador. And then as a little side gig, as I mentioned earlier as well, I'm doing a solo album as well, where I'm actually collaborating with bands I've had on the podcast. So that working title for that album is Steven Helhammer and the Ambassadors of Rock. Wow. So that literally, because that literally will eventually become an album with nothing but people that I've had on the podcast. That will then, by the time that album is done, everyone on that album will share each other's audience, if you know what I mean, because it becomes an album where you have so many. There's probably like on some songs there might be 2 or 3 different artists from 2 or 3 different continents on the same song. So if you have an album of say 10 or 11 songs, but you've got 15, 16, 17 different people on it, then everyone will tap into different regions and different sections and be exposed to a new audience. And that is so important, man. That's so important that you share a fan base. So that's one of sort of like the main things that I've got going on in the next couple of months. But I'm sure if we have a chat in 6 months, I'm sure there'll be other stuff, that would have happened between now and then, you know what I mean? Setting up a label as well that can release that album, and probably also other bands that will be in the Hellhammer ecosystem as well. Because all I really want to do as an ambassador is to represent and proactively promote other bands that I believe in, and encourage other people to do the same.
Right. So this I don't know when these things will normalize with that, they are travel and bands can travel and tour again. But so for me as a fan, I normally go. I used to go to concerts like 60 plus concerts a year. So 2019 I went to like 61 concerts, I think, in 2019. But wow. in 2020 I went to only 8 gigs, because there was only 8 gig happen around here, right? So but earlier I was like very skeptical about this live streaming and watching it live. Those things I was quite skeptical, but I kind of changed my mind over time, because I watched a couple of live streams. Like I watched the Behemoth live stream, and recently Pantera, Phil Anselmo did like a Pantera tribute live stream very few weeks back. So it's like,
yeah, wow,
it's actually changed my perspective. Like I can feel that the live stream thing can work actually, because I'm seeing this advantage that now I can actually watch a gig happening in US or any other place. I don't actually have to go there, and it's sort of expanded my concert going experience. So what do you think about the live streaming and stuff?
That's actually that's a really good way of looking at it. And let me start by saying I agree with you 100%. That is again also something that that has been born out of COVID, where bands have said, look, we still need to have this as an outlet. You know, we still want to play, but now we just have to play in like we just have to play in front of a couple of cameras in a closed rooms and cameramen with face masks and stuff, you know. But yeah, I mean, I think that will be probably the preference for a lot of people, even in the future. Is the fact is that it's so convenient. Like you said, you can sit at home and you can tap into a concert. I think that will also be. I think that'll actually also happen after concerts are available. I think you will have the option to also buy a virtual ticket because it's more revenue for the band. And you can probably buy that ticket at, you know, maybe a fraction of the price, maybe a 10, 20 or 30% of the actual ticket price. But you don't need to get out and get in your car and go and pay for parking and, you know, worry about if you had too many drinks and stuff like that. So it gives you that extra aspect to it. Exactly the same as if you're sitting at home and you're watching a soccer or a football game or a cricket match or something like that. Like some people love to go to a stadium, but a lot of people also just prefer to sit at home because it's convenient. You can see it on a big screen. It's a great production. You got all the right camera angles. Unless you're six, well, I'm about 2 meters tall, so every time I go to a concert, I can see everything. But if you're a short little fucker and you can't see anything, you might prefer to actually have it on a big screen and see the great production. You can see the drummer playing, because usually you can never see him anyway. You know what I mean? So yeah, so personally, I think the live streaming is here to stay, and I think you'll see more and more of it. I think a lot of smaller bands too will start to learn and start to pick up live streaming gear and do that at smaller gigs, because same thing as we spoke about before, it gives you a much bigger audience instantly. Gives you content. It gives you content that you can share on your social media platforms. And if you're a new fan, the visual aspect of it is far more powerful than just going on Spotify and listening to a new band. If you can see someone play and it looks wicked and they look great, they got, you know, tattoos and a cool band shirt, or, you know, like long hair and they're headbanging, that's so much more powerful than you just putting on. Like, imagine if you're listening to you mentioned Phil Anselmo. Imagine if you listen to a couple of old Pantera songs, but you just listen to the songs, or you saw them live as well. Like when you see Dimebag Darrell, you know, and he's like doing the helicopter, and you see Phil Anselmo, you know, and he's standing with one foot on the speaker, like he's a scary motherfucker. You know what I mean? If you see that visual, you go like, holy shit, I need to check these guys out more. And I think if you're a good band, especially if you're a good live band, and you look great and you perform well, you will have a 10-fold, 20, 30-fold, 100-fold times better opportunity of getting picked up or getting a broad audience if you learn that skill. So if you don't want to necessarily bring live stream out with you at a gig, then do it at your rehearsal room, or get really good at doing at least some content that you can shoot on a budget or for a very, very small amount of for very small investment. If it's just you going and buying some cameras and you could do it, again, it'll mean such a big difference. But yeah, live streaming in general is definitely 100%. It's here to stay and grow. Yeah,
I mean, I'm really looking forward to this, seeing all these bands that I cannot actually go and watch. So that's an amazing experience, actually.
Absolutely same. And again, like it's like for at the moment it's mainly just all the local bands playing here, because all the international bands are still not allowed to come here, because again, like you need a two week quarantine, or I don't even know if they are allowed in, but you definitely need a two week quarantine if you come in. So from a budget perspective as a band, you know, that's 2 weeks of downtime. So yeah, but by the time all the bands are allowed to come here again, you know, it's, you know, even even if there was no restrictions, which I actually don't know if they would be open to doing, say, stadium tours here where you can have 30, 40, 50,000 people here. Even if there were restrictions, I think people would still live stream it.
Yeah.
Because it would give people in countries where there is still restrictions the opportunity to still be a part of it. And again, let's not forget it as well. Like, it would be a huge added revenue to it. Like, if you could buy a ticket for $10 or whatever the equivalent of a virtual ticket would be in the Philippines or wherever in the world you are, then at the same time, the bands would also be able to say, oh, by the way, if you like this stream, don't forget you can buy a t-shirt or or a cap, or you can buy merchandise, or you can tip, or you can give us a tip. You can add that to the stream, and people consider the comfort of their own home and buy a band shirt. Again, I love band shirts. Like, I'm wearing one here for a really cool Swedish band called Transport League. So I'll just do a shout out to them here. So again, like, if you add your merchandise to your live stream, or to whatever content you put out, really, like, have a call to action where if people do like what you're doing, where can they go and buy some stuff and support you? Because most fans wants to buy a cool shirt if they like your music. It's just one of those cool things, man.
Yeah. Steven, I mean, I really enjoying this conversation, but I think we'll have to, we probably need to talk again later on again, I believe.
For sure, man.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So Steven, what's your message to the people who supported your podcast and all the people supporting you, watching your content?
Well, keep like join the ride. Come over and see what I'm up to. Because again, like I said, I'm very sort of reactive. Like, again, if I get a good idea, I usually just try and run with it. But my message is definitely, like, believe in yourself, and don't be afraid to take some risks. You don't need to go all in the same way as I've done it, but you definitely, if you do want to achieve something, then the first rule is you got to act, you got to show up, you got to put in the work. But you also have to believe in yourself. So so if you want to sort of see how I go about that, I said, by all means, come over, check out the podcast, check me out on the different platforms. Mainly it's YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. The handle is Steven Helhammer with one L, so HEL Hammer. But yeah, come and check it out. Believe in yourself, think big, don't be scared. Everything's going to be okay. It's not going to kill you.
Yeah, Steven, so thank you so much for joining the podcast. Really enjoy talking to you. So all the best with all your projects and all your ambassador work with Rock. Looking forward to those.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'll keep you posted. And likewise, thanks so much for having me. Finally made the time here. But yeah, really had a good time as well.
Yes, thank you, Steven.
No worries at all.
Hellhammer, everyone. Steven Helhammer.
Thanks, guys.